Hello, Ma'am Sheena. Good day. So, today we're gonna talk about the global citizenship in the contemporary world, and we are the group 7. But first, we're gonna talk about the learning objectives. So, first, to grasp what global citizenship means and how it affects the world. To learn the main elements and ideas that define global citizenship. To understand our individual duties and obligations as global citizens and actively carry them out, to contribute to solutions for global challenges and lessen their harmful effects. So, defining what is global citizenship. Global citizenship is the term for social, environmental, and economic actions of individuals and communities who recognize that every person is a citizen of the world. So, without further ado, we are like each of us here is a global citizen. Kumbaga like ang global citizenship is about a community who believes that we are a each of us a global citizen rather, and we also have our responsibilities and tasks. Not also that, but we need like we also need to understand as a global citizen, such as respecting uh, cultural like diversities and understanding like nationalities among the world. So kumbaga, no, it is very important to understand and comprehend what is really a global citizenship, and it just concludes that we as one we need to unite to provide a positive impact of the world and to lessen the harmful effects we are currently facing on right now. So next, global citizenship. It is about how decisions in one part of the planet can affect people living in a different part of it, and about how we all share a common humanity and are of equal worth. So, very like straightforward example really is like war. No, if like if a country decides to like to declare a war, like it's not just like them that will be affected rather. Uh, we no, even though we are really like far, or maybe let's take for example Ukraine and Russia, we are very far pero no, we are really affected. Dili lang gyud siya sa it's not like only the economy, no. We as a Filipino citizen, especially Filipinos who live there, no, and also like as they said, if like if this certain part region in the world ay commits a decision, maapektahan jud ang tanan. So no, so especially if kani siya nga region like gina ano ni nila gina worse in worse nila, especially ang climate change. So kani pod ring region, so maapektahan ta kasi we are living in a one global economy, so maapektahan ta. So we also need like we need to unite as one to like to resolve a global issue, no, to create a positive impact on the world. So next, according to Oxfam International, global citizenship, global citizenship is the idea that as people, we are all citizens of the globe who have an equal responsibility for what happens on into our world. This means to say that every global citizen has a duty to address issues affecting our being as a citizens. As there could be no formal process to become a global citizen, holding this citizenship status is something that we all have a right to and obligation as well. So as they said, even though we not have a formal declaration we are a global citizen, no? But hence we also need to understand what really is the point of being a global citizenship. Like what is the point of this community? Kumbaga, as they said, we really like need to unite as one, and it is very significant not just for this region part of the world but all over the world because as I said earlier, we are living in a one global economy. No, it is very important to understand the values of being a global citizen. So moving on to the next, moving forward to the five salient features of global citizenship. First, global citizenship as a choice in a way of thinking. Second, global citizenship as self-awareness and awareness of others. Third, global citizenship as they practice cultural empathy. Fourth, global citizenship as the cultivation of principled decision making. And lastly, global citizenship as a participation in the social and political life of one's community. This one will be further discussed by Charles Antanoy.
Good day, everyone. Today we will be tackling about the five key features that shape the idea and our actions today. Number one, global citizenship as a choice and a way of thinking. Global citizenship begins in the mind. It is not an automatic label you're born with. It is a perspective you decide to adopt. For some people, that choice looks like reading and debating global issues from home, taking part in online solidarity networks, or learning other languages. For others, it's physical travel, study abroad, or work across borders. Either way, the point is the same. You intentionally broaden your frame of reference from what affects me and my neighborhood to what affects people and systems beyond my immediate circle. Educators and institutions can encourage this mindset by exposing students to multiple viewpoints, making global issues relevant to local context, and modeling curiosity rather than judgment. Number two, global citizenship as self awareness and awareness of others. Self awareness is the foundation of responsible global engagement. When students learn their own history, biases, and values, they are better equipped to recognize the common threads that run through the human experience: fear, joy, hope, or loss. That recognition reduces distance. It helps people see others as fellow humans rather than stereotypes. Practical ways to develop this includes reflective writing, structured dialogue, and community service that ask participants to connect personal motivations to broader social outcomes. The result is a stronger sense of responsibility because you understand how your actions ripple outward. Number three, global citizenship is a practical cultural empathy or intercultural competence. Cultural empathy, also called as intercultural competence, is about more than politeness and curiosity. It is learned skill set, knowledge of other cultural histories and ways of communicating, attitudes of openness and humility, and concrete abilities to navigate cultural differences respectfully. In higher education and the workplace, this skill matters because teams and societies are increasingly diverse. Teaching methods that build intercultural competence include case studies that show real dilemmas, role plays that reverse perspectives, storytelling, or co creation with people of other cultures, and language learning that stresses meaning over perfection. A word of caution: empathy can be reduced to exoticizing other cultures or checking diversity box. Real intercultural competence involves ongoing listening, correcting mistakes, and centering the dignity and agency of the people you engaged with. Number four, global citizenship as a cultivation of principled decision making. Being a global citizen calls for an ethical backbone. Once you see the world as interconnected, supply chains that stretch continents, climate effects that cross borders, policies that displace people, ethical choices become unavoidable. Principled decision making relies on several pillars: critical thinking to weigh evidence, cultural awareness to account for multiple perspectives, and a moral framework that balances rights, duties, and consequences. In practice, this might mean a student considering the ethical impact of a consumer choice, or a manager rethinking sourcing to avoid harm to vulnerable communities. Universities can help by teaching comparative ethics, systems thinking, and structured decision exercises, where students must justify choices and consider long-term consequences. Importantly, principled choices are rarely simple or perfectly moral. The goal is to cultivate the habit of thoughtful, accountable decision making. Lastly, global citizenship as participation in the social and political life of one's communities. Finally, global citizenship is not passive. It expresses itself through participation, local, national, and global. Participation takes many forms: voting, volunteering, joining community associations, contributing to public debate, supporting transnational causes, or working with NGOs. The global citizens like bridges scales addressing a local issue like a neighborhood waste program with an awareness of wider implication, waste, import or export, environmental justice. At the same time, beware of slacktivism, performative acts online that create a feeling of engagement without meaningful impact. Genuine participation combines sustainable local action with informed global perspective, and it often requires patience, coalition, building, and accountability. Practical implication and common challenges. Putting these features into practice raises real question. How do we teach global citizenship without imposing a single worldview? How do we measure access so that only privileged students don't get to be global citizens? How do we prevent cultural empathy from becoming a checklist? The answers lie in inclusive pedagogy, creating meaningful, reciprocal exchanges, giving students tools for critical reflection, and designing opportunities that are reachable for many, not just a few. So, as for our conclusion, global citizenship is a lived choice that bends inner work with outward action. It asks us to think broadly, know ourselves and others, practice cultural empathy, make ethical decisions, and participate actively in the decisions and part of our community. If you want a simple starting point, pick one everyday habit. Read one perspective from another country each week, join a local project with global dimensions, or reflect weekly on how your choices affect others. Small, steady choices build that must the mindset and a muscle of global citizenship. Thank you. May we all keep learning, listening, and acting in ways that connect our local lives to the wider world. Thank you, everyone.
Furthermore, is the global citizenship interconnected concepts. First, global citizenship and globalization. Second, global citizenship and global economy. Third, global citizenship and global governance. This also will be further discussed by my groupmates, Mels Mendoza, Vin Mejorada, and Adrian Kim Chan.
So, good afternoon, everyone. This time, I will be reporting on global citizenship and cultural empathy. In our modern world, people are more connected than ever because of globalization, technology, and international cooperation. With these connections, it becomes important to learn how to live, study, and work with people from very different backgrounds. That is where the idea of global citizenship comes in, and one of its most important skills is cultural empathy. So what is global citizenship? Global citizenship means seeing ourselves not just as members of our own country, but also as part of a bigger global community. A global citizen is aware of world issues such as climate change, inequality, or human rights, and feels responsible to act in ways that benefit not only their own nation but also humanity as a whole. Global citizenship is built on values like justice, sustainability, peace, and cooperation. So, second one is, what is cultural empathy? Now, a key skill of global citizenship is cultural empathy. This means being able to understand and respect people who come from cultures different from ours. It's more than just tolerating differences, it's about appreciating and learning from them. Cultural empathy requires us to see the world from another person's cultural perspective, even if it's very different from what we are used to. For example, what might be considered polite in one culture could be rude in another, and empathy helps us recognize and adapt to those differences. And the third one, importance in higher education. In higher education, universities emphasize cultural empathy because schools today are very diverse. Students meet classmates from different regions, religions, and traditions. By practicing empathy, students learn to collaborate better, resolve conflicts peacefully, and prepare themselves for global careers. This makes cultural empathy not just an academic skill but a life skill. So number 4, connection to global citizenship. Cultural empathy is the foundation of global citizenship. Without empathy, global citizenship becomes just an idea, but with empathy, it turns into action. It helps us overcome ethnoterrorism, or the tendency to believe that our own culture is superior. Instead, it encourages us to build inclusive communities where all voices are respected. So number 5, relevance in professional and global settings. Cultural empathy is also very valuable in professional life. For example, in multinational companies, teams work with people from different countries. Empathy helps them avoid misunderstandings and work more effectively. In diplomacy or international negotiations, empathy allows leaders to respect each other's values and reach for agreements. Even in local communities, empathy makes us more open to diversity and respectful toward others. So number 6, how can we practice cultural empathy? There are several ways we can develop this skill. First, through active listening, where we pay close attention to what others are saying. The second one, by suspending judgment and avoiding stereotypes. So the third, by exposing ourselves to different cultures. This could be through travel, cultural exchange, or even building friendships with people diverse backgrounds. Fourth, by learning other languages, because language is a bridge to understanding values and traditions. Finally, through self-reflection, where we examine our own cultural biases and learn to be more open-minded. So number 7, benefits of practicing cultural empathy. When we practice cultural empathy, we create many positive effects. We strengthen cross-cultural relationships, reduce prejudice, and promote peace. We also prepare ourselves to be effective leaders in a global society. In short, empathy doesn't only make us better individuals, it also helps us build a better, more cooperative world. So, to conclude, global citizenship is more than just being aware of the world. It's about acting responsibly and respectfully as members of one global community. And to truly live as global citizens, we need cultural empathy, the ability to understand, respect, and value people from different cultural backgrounds. If we practice cultural empathy in our schools, workplace, and communities, we will not succeed personally, but we will also contribute to a more peaceful and inclusive world. Thank you.
Global citizenship and global economy. I'm going to talk about how global citizenship connects with the global economy, focusing on 3 major approaches people use to resist or reshape economic globalization: trade protectionism, fair trade, and efforts to support the world's poorest populations. Trade protectionism. The first approach is trade protectionism. This happens when governments step in to limit the amount of foreign goods entering their country. They usually do this by imposing tariffs, extra taxes on imports, or by creating non-tariff barriers such as strict regulations, quotas, and subsidies for local industries. The goal of protectionism is to make domestic products more competitive while discouraging reliance on foreign competitors. For example, if imported steel is taxed heavily, local steel producers suddenly have an advantage because their goods become cheaper compared to imported ones. Economists often criticize protectionism and inefficiently because it limits competition, raises price, and slows down innovation. In the long run, consumers usually lose because they pay more for goods and have fewer choices. Yet, despite these drawbacks, protectionism remains popular. Why? Because it shields a nation's economy from sudden global shocks such as price crashes, foreign competition that wipes out local jobs, or geopolitical tensions. In short, it acts as a buffer, even if even if it's not the most efficient solution. Fair trade. The second approach is fair trade, which was developed as a response to neoliberal free trade politics. Free trade emphasizes open markets, such as minimal governmental interference, assuming that prices should always be set by supply and demand. But fair trade challenges this idea by prioritizing ethics, transparency, and fairness over pure market forces. In a fair trade system, prices are not left entirely to the market. Instead, producers and buyers negotiate openly, entrusting that farmers, workers, and artisans, often from developing countries, receive a fair share of their work. Think of coffee, cocoa, or handicrafts that carry a fair trade label. The label signals that workers were paid decently and that the production process requires both the people and the environment. The strength of fair trade is its moral foundation. It seeks to build a more equitable global economy where profit is not the only goal. However, fair trade also faces criticism. Some argue it cannot be scaled up to serve mass markets or applied easily to industrial products. For instance, while it works well for small-scale agriculture, it's much harder to apply fair trade standards to industries like electronics or automobile manufacturing. Supporting the bottom billion. The third form of resistance to economic globalization is focused on helping what economics sometimes call the bottom billion, the poorest people in the world, often living in fragile or underdeveloped states. Foreign aid is often the first tool people think of, and while aid can make a difference, it is far from enough to truly address the economic marginalization of these populations. Deeper structural changes are required. One strategy is to adopt international rules and standards so that they better reflect the needs of poor countries. For example, giving them more flexible trade agreements or special assistance in meeting global market standards. Another critical step is reducing trade barriers. Many poor countries struggle because of their export faces heavy restrictions or tariffs in richer markets. By lowering these barriers, developing countries can create opportunities for the bottom billion to participate in the global economy. While small farmers or manufacturers in Africa or South Asia gain easier access to global markets, it can mean jobs, growth, and long-term development. So in conclusion, it means we cannot look at the global economy simply as numbers and politics. It is deeply tied to the human well-being. Protectionism tries to defend local communities, but often at the cost of efficiency. Fair trade tries to reshape the rules of exchange to ensure fairness and justice. and efforts to support the bottom billion remind us that globalization should not leave anyone behind. As global citizens, our role is to understand these approaches, recognize their strengths and weaknesses, and advocate for economic systems that balance efficiency and fairness, whether through making conscious choices as consumers, pushing for fairer policies as voters, or engaging in international cooperation. We all play a part in sharing a global economy that works for everyone. In the end, global citizenship and global economy are not separate ideas. They are interconnected. The economy provides opportunities, but global citizenship provides the values and responsibility needed to make those opportunities meaningful and just. By combining the two, we can move forward a world that is not preposterous but also fair, inclusive, and sustainable.
This time I will be discussing global citizenship and global governance. Global citizenship is about recognizing our shared humanity and taking responsibility for global issues such as human rights, peace, justice, and sustainability. Global governance refers to the way international institutions, state organizations, and global agreements coordinate to address worldwide challenges beyond the power of one country alone. The connection of the two is global citizenship provides the values and active participant like justice, responsibility, cooperations, while global governance provides the framework of and mechanisms like UN, WTO, climate change agreements, trades, to put this into practice together. They ensure collective problem solving for issues like climate change, poverty, pandemics, and conflicts. Here are several examples of global citizenship and global governance working together across different issues. Number 1. Human rights. For global citizenship, citizens campaign for freedom and equality through NGOs, protest, or online advocacy. And for global governance, the United Nations Human Rights Council and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights set international standards to protect dignity and justice. Number 2. Peace and security. Global citizenship, youth peace movement, and cross-border dialogue promote tolerance and reject violence. For global governance, the United Nations Security Council coordinate peacekeeping missions to resolve conflict and maintain international peace. Number 3. Global health. Global citizenship, individuals volunteer, donate, or spread awareness about health crises like COVID-19 or Ebola. For global governance, the World Health Organization or WHO leads coordinate responses, sets health guidance, and support countries in managing outbreaks. Number 4. Environmental sustainability. Global citizenship, citizens join in environmental movement like Friday for Future and adopt eco-friendly practice. Global governance, agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and the UN Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs guide collective international actions. Number 5. Fair trade and economic justice. Global citizenship, people choose fair trade products to support ethical labor practice. Global governance, organizations like the World Trade Organization or WTO and International Labor Organization or ILO create rules for fair economic system. And for the summarize of global citizenship and governance, global citizenship encourages individuals to see themselves as part of a worldwide community, while shared responsibilities for human rights, social justice, peace, and environmental sustainability. While governance, on the other hand, refers to the system, policies, and institutions that make decisions and manage resources at local, national, and global levels.
So, with all that further explained, Here we are now to the ways of becoming a global citizen. This will be further discussed by my groupmate Lance Albino.
How to be a global citizen. Be inspired. Being inspired is the spark that ignites your journey to becoming a global citizen. It's about cultivating curiosity, empathy, and a sense of wonder about the world. This can also be achieved by exploring different cultures, like learning about various traditions, customs, and values to appreciate the diversity of human experiences. Another one is reading global literature, engaging with books, articles, and authors from diverse backgrounds to gain insights into different perspectives and experiences. Then another one is watching international films and documentaries, like movies or Netflix. It can help you expand your understanding of global issues and cultures through visual storytelling. And lastly, meeting people from diverse backgrounds. You have to meet new friends because engaging with individuals from different cultures, industries, and professions to broaden your perspective. And the second one is get educated. And education is the key to becoming a global citizen. It's about acquiring knowledge, skills, and critical thinking to navigate the complexities of the world. This can be achieved by taking online courses like enrolling in global studies, international relations, or cultural exchange programs to develop a deeper understanding of global issues and perspectives. Another one is learning a new language. You have to pick any language you want as long as it's not Tagalog or any other dialect in the Philippines. It can help you expand your communication skills to connect with people from diverse backgrounds and cultures. Then, attending global events. Participate in conferences, festivals, or workshops that promote cultural exchange and learning. Finally, reading global news and publications. Staying informed about international events, trends, and issues. The third one is expand views. Expanding your views is about new ideas, experiences, and cultures. This can be achieved by traveling and exploring the world, different countries to experience diverse cultures firsthand and gain a deeper understanding of the world. Another one is engaging in discussions. Talk to people from various backgrounds to gain new insights and perspectives. Then, practicing empathy. Understand and appreciate different viewpoints to foster a more inclusive and compassionate mindset. And lastly, challenging. You have to challenge your assumptions. Question your own biases and assumptions to become more open-minded and receptive to new ideas. And the fourth and last one is stay informed. So, staying informed is about staying up to date on global issues, trends, and events. It's about being aware of the complexities of the world and understanding the interconnectedness of global challenges. This can also be achieved by following global news, like staying informed about international events, trends, and issues, or the news about our country. Or subscribing to global publications like reading newspapers, magazines, or online articles that cover global topics to deepen your understanding of global issues. Another one is joining online communities. So, participation in forums or social media groups focused on global issues to engage with others and stay informed. The last aspect of staying informed is engaging in critical thinking. Analyzing information, evaluate sources, and think critically about global issues.
So, with all that further explained, here we are to the conclusion of our report. Being a global citizen is about more than just the title. It's about truly understanding its purpose. It involves recognizing key aspects and appreciating their importance. This understanding impacts our economy, environment, and community, showing that being a good global citizen means grasping the world's interconnectedness. This also includes a commitment to ethical behavior and a responsibility to contribute to a better world, ultimately aiming for a more yet and sustainable future for everyone, fostering empathy and collaboration across borders. After all that, we also searched through online and gathered some links to the credible sources that we studied. So, this is the links, and I think that will be it. So, thank you, Ma'am Sheena, and also for my classmates that will be listening. Um, Thank you for listening. This is the Group 7 report.